Hello and welcome to all. Today's session we'll see step-by-step process to design effective test cases. Okay, so as part of today's session, first we'll understand what test cases are, why they matter in software testing lifecycle. Okay, we'll also consider one real-life example and we'll consider the login features. Okay, in this login feature, we'll consider the scenarios and considering these scenarios, how we'll write the test cases. And as part of any scenarios or any requirements, okay, we need to think the functional perspective that we need to consider both the cases, positive and negative, then boundary, okay, then usability, then performance test case also we need to consider, then compatibility, accessibility, security cases. Okay, so when we say any requirements, okay, when product team will give any requirements, we need to consider all perspective of these test cases. Okay, and we'll also prepare the automation ready and reviewable test cases. Okay, so before we start, first we'll understand what are the test cases. Okay, test cases are written the steps that validate the software behavior. Okay, so when we are writing a test cases, okay, so we are writing a test cases in step by step in detail. Okay, they simulate real user actions and check the expected outcomes. Okay, so if you return the good test cases, okay, then definitely that will helps to find the defects early and reduce the production issues. Okay, and like if you see a test case should be clear, okay, it and repeatable and easy to execute. It should not be complicated. Okay, so further we'll see the principles of test cases. Okay, so before that, first we'll understand why test cases are important. Test cases are important because it ensures the software meets the business requirements. Okay, it's improve the product quality and prevent the costly defects. Okay, and it also provide the evidence of validation and the coverage. Okay, so test is also important. Okay, when we do the knowledge transfer across the QA team. Okay, it's also support the automation and the regression testing. Okay, so like as I said, this is a test case principle. So when we are writing a test cases, we need to consider all these principles. Okay, otherwise, when we execute the test cases, we will get a different result. Okay, so these things should not happen. Okay, so first principle is clear and unambiguous. Okay, anyone can understand and execute. Okay, so it's not a like some expert only can execute the test cases. Okay, so our test case should be clear and unambiguous. So if anyone execute, our result should come the same. Okay, a single purpose. So every test cases, okay, the purpose should be single. Okay, we should not cover the more than two purpose or two expected result. Okay, then traceable. Okay, it we should must map back the requirement or the user story. Okay, so this is useful for the traceability matrix. Okay, reusable can be executed repeatedly for multiple builds. Okay, so we'll write a test cases so that it will execute on multiple builds. Okay, and it should be independent. It should not be dependent on the result of the other test. Okay, so this is the test case principles. Okay, so we need to remember when we are writing a test cases. Okay, so as part of today's session, okay, we'll consider this is the login feature. Okay, and here we have two text box, username and email fields. It's accept the 25 characters password. Okay, then remember me checkbox. This we have a login button. Okay, so we'll consider this scenario or these features and we'll design a test cases. Okay, and as part of today's session, we'll cover like all the functional, including positive, negative. Okay, then we'll cover boundary value analysis. Then we'll also cover the usability, then security test cases, performance test cases, compatibility test cases, accessibility test cases. Okay, so we'll see in details. Okay, so this is a standard test case template. Okay, so when we are writing a test cases, we'll make sure that we have test case ID. It should be unique. Okay, title should be clear. Okay, then requirement ID. Okay, so requirement ID we need to map with each test cases. This is useful for the traceability matrix. Then we need to give the precondition. Okay, like what when we are executing the test case. Okay, there definitely there should be some precondition or prerequisite. Okay, before executing the test. Then if test data. Okay, if in case we need to use the test data, we need to give that test data. Okay, then steps. It's the exact actions what we need to execute. Okay, then expected result, okay, outcome according to the requirements, and we also need to give the priority and severity for the business impact level. Okay, so this is the test case template. Okay, we also remember these things. Okay, and yeah, so here like we'll consider login feature requirement. Okay, like here, as I mentioned, okay, login feature. So this is the requirements uh, given by the product owner. Like email field is mandatory and must be valid format. Password is mandatory and validate with rules. Okay, so rules means password should be encrypted. Okay, and account gets locked after the 5 login attempts. Okay, so we'll see all these details. Then successful login redirects user to dashboard. Okay, so once user enter the user correct user ID, correct password, it will display the dashboard and it display the welcome screen, welcome user. Okay, if user enters the incorrect email ID or the password, okay, it will give them valid error message, and account locks after 5 failed attempts. Okay, this is for the security purpose. Now this is our requirements. Okay, so on these requirements or these features, we are writing the test cases. Okay, so first we'll always start with the functional test cases. Valid flow, successful login. Okay, so here you can see we have written the ID, then we have a preconditions. Okay, valid active user exists. Then we need to give the all the steps in details. Like first we need to log in with the application, enter valid email address, enter valid password, click on the login, and we need to give the expected result. We'll see the format of the test case for this test case. Okay, later we'll just cover the different types of the test cases. And expected result is redirect to dashboard and welcome message visible. And priority is definitely high. It's a priority is 1 because it's a critical business flow. And this is the example, like in Zephyr it's given. Like here you can see this is the steps. Okay, this is the action, test data, expected result, and status. Okay, if we executed, then it's we mark as a pass. Okay, if it's pass, if it's a fail, we'll mark as a fail, and we'll attach the defect. Okay, now here you can see as a test steps or action, we need to mention launch the application or navigate to login screen. Okay, so test data is not required, but the expected result is login page should be displayed with email, password fields, and login button. Okay, the next step is enter valid email in email field, and we'll give the example. Okay, here you can give the user at that example.com. Okay, email should be accepted, no validation error should be shown. Okay, same for the valid password. Click on login button. Then expected is user should be authenticated successfully. Then next we are expecting verify redirection after login. Then user should be redirected to dashboard page. Okay, and then we'll validate the welcome message. Okay, welcome message should be visible on the dashboard. Example, welcome user. Okay, so now this is the functional positive flow. Okay, and this way we need to write it all the test cases in Zephyr or in we can say XLS, what are the things you are using. If in case you are using Zephyr Jira, then you should write the same format. Okay. Then next test type is the functional test case only, but it's a negative validation error message. Like here you can see missing email address. Okay. So like here we can see if we leave the email blank or enter the password wrong. Okay. And click on the login message. Okay. Then we are expecting error message. Okay. Relevant error message. And login should not be proceeded. Okay. So this is the expected result. Okay, we can, if in case we need to design the test cases, we'll use the same format and we'll design it. Okay. Then next, we need to consider the boundary and the edge cases. Okay, like as I mentioned, the username or password length minimum 8 character and maximum 20 characters. Then we need to consider the boundary value and a boundary value. Like what will happen if I enter the 7 characters? Okay, what will happen if I enter 21 characters? Okay, it should not accept. Okay, this is our requirement. Okay, even like we'll also try like white space trimming. If we give the space, okay, then value again space, what will happen? Okay, then invalid email format. It should give the relevant error message. Okay, then we also need to check the case sensitive handling, email and password sensitiveness and other things. We need to consider. Okay, then next is the security test cases. We also need to consider like one of the requirement was account gets locked after 5 failed login attempts. Okay, we also need to consider. Then password must be masked and encrypted. Okay, and error message should be generic, no account exposure. Okay, so that means error message should be generic. It should not be mentioned anything related to users or the password. Okay, then next we need to consider the testing type or test case type, that usability or accessibility test cases. That is nothing but we need to check the all the fields aligned and readable. Okay, login button only active when we enter the user ID and password. Okay, then password mask, it should, the password should not be visible when user is entering the password. Okay, it should be masked or encrypted. Then all tab navigation works correctly. Okay, so this is a part of the usability or accessibility. Then we also need to consider the compatibility. Okay, so when product owner is giving the requirements, we also need to consider the which browser we need to execute. Either maybe we need to execute only Chrome or Firefox or Edge. Okay, then also we need to consider what are the device we need to consider, whether it's a desktop, mobile, or the laptop only. And the UI should be, or it should be responsive. Okay, then next test type we need to consider performance test cases. Okay, when user enter the user and password, okay, within a less than 2 seconds, we can see the login welcome screen. Okay, if it is taking more time, then it's a performance issue. Then again, we need to report to product like it is not working as part of the performance. Okay, then we also need to check the 100 plus concurrent logins. Okay, it should get support. Okay, then next, the test case review checklist. Okay, so what are the things we are covering? Definitely, does the test case map to requirement? This is also expected as part of traceability. Is the expected result measurable and clear? Okay, so when we are doing the test case review, we need to consider these things. Is data provided and valid? Okay, if we say mentioned enter the valid data. Okay, but if in case some junior QA is going to execute, he don't know what are the type of data we need to enter it. So that is the reason we need to give them. We need to mention the specific data. Okay, can the test be executed independently? Okay, is the test sequence logical and reproducible? Okay, can it be automated? Okay, here we can see we also need to think about the automation perspective as well. Okay, so this is the test case review checklist. We need to consider it. Okay, and next is automation readiness. Okay, use stable element locators. Okay, so we need to consider when we are doing the usability perspective or accessibility testing perspective, we need to consider whether for each components or each field, whether we the development team provided the locators or not. Okay, avoid dynamic values in assertions. Okay, then keep test data externalized for reuse. Okay, we need to keep the test data separate. Okay, then mark high priority reusable test for the automation. Okay, so we need to consider the test which are executing frequently. We need to consider that high priority, and we need to consider on priority for automation. Okay, okay, then summary is test cases ensures the quality and reduce the risk. Okay, it should be clear, traceable, and independent test cases. Okay, it should cover positive, negative, boundary, security, performance, UI, UX, compatibility, end-to-end integration scenarios also we need to consider. And at the last but not least, we need to think automation from the beginning. Okay, when we are designing the test case, at that time only we need to consider, since we are full stack QA, we need to consider automation from the beginning. Okay, so this is the way we can design the effective test cases. If in case you have any questions, query, please let me know. Thank you.